So you want to take a timid coffee shop boy who gets kidnapped by a literal monster and turn him into a tentacle-wielding eldritch abomination in Dungeons & Dragons? Well, strap in, because today we're building Ken Kaneki from Tokyo Ghoul as an interesting D&D playable character, and yeah, it's gonna get a little edgy at times. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more insane anime to D&D builds, or any ridiculous D&D builds in general, and check out my Patreon where you can grab the full character sheet for Kaneki, plus every other build I've ever made. And we're going to try and do this build in some sort of order that kind of fits his progression as a character. Because Kaneki starts out as your everyday college student, shy, obsessed with literature, and completely oblivious to the monster brewing inside of him. In D&D terms, this is going to be levels 1 to 3. But let's start with the species. We're going with a Dhampir. It's perfect because it gives him a taste of his ghoul nature without going full monster yet, even giving features like spider climb and, more importantly, vampiric bite. As a ghoul, your diet gets a bit interesting, and vampiric bite can kind of replicate that. So you have a fanged bite as a natural weapon, which counts as a simple melee weapon, which you are proficient with. You get to add your constitution modifier instead of your strength modifier to the attack and damage rolls. It only deals 1d4 piercing damage on a hit, but if you're missing half or more of your hit points, you have advantage on the attack roll you make with this bite. And when you attack with this bite and hit a creature that isn't a construct or undead, you can empower yourself by either regaining hit points equal to the piercing damage you dealt with the bite, or you can gain a bonus to your next ability check or attack roll you make equal to the piercing damage dealt. You can only use this bite attack a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest. And then because he works in a coffee shop and you want to roleplay that a bit, go ahead and take the merchant background. This gives us the lucky feat. So you get a number of luck points equal to your proficiency bonus, which you can use to give yourself advantage on any d20 test or force an enemy to have disadvantage on an attack roll against you. Then, when it comes to a class, we need to focus on the whole eldritch horror thing. But at this stage, you're just kind of a freaked out college student who accidentally became a ghoul, and we're going to treat this as an accidentally signing a pact with an eldritch horror. And we'll get to the hardcore tentacles in a bit, but mostly for right now, they're more of a panic reaction with your powers. So we're going to go ahead and start with Warlock. Becoming a Warlock gives us some eldritch invocations right away. We get to choose one for right now, and we're going to go with Pact of the Tome. Partially because Pact of the Blade doesn't really work, even though you do know how to use a sword, but we need to focus on the tentacles a bit to start. And with Pact of the Tome, we have another way to lean into that. First, we're going to grab Thorn Whip. This is the very first tentacle you can sprout out from yourself. It allows you to make a melee spell attack against a creature. It has a decent range, and when you hit a creature with it, you're going to be able to pull an enemy 10 feet closer to you. The damage is 1d6 at first level, but once you get to 5th level, it's 2d6 and 3d6 at 11th level, all the way up to 4d6 at 17th level. And we're able to get this because Pact of the Tome allows us to get 3 cantrips and 2 ritual-based spells from any spell list. So grabbing Thorn Whip from the Druid spell list is really helpful here. But this character also can sort of make people think of their impending doom, so we're going to grab Toll the Dead. Dealing 1d8 necrotic damage, and if an enemy has already taken some damage, that boosts up to a d12 per rank of this cantrip. Then for the last one, I want to make sure you're actually physically touching somebody with your tentacle, so we're going to go with Chill Touch. This allows you to make a melee spell attack, dealing 1d10 necrotic damage, and the target can't regain any hit points until the end of your next turn. When it comes to first level spells, I don't really know much that would really fit with this character, so I'm just going to grab Detect Magic and Comprehend Languages, just so you can get dubbed in both Japanese and English. Then also at first level of being a Warlock, you get some Pact Magic, and this is actually going to be one of the lower magic builds I've ever done for a Warlock, because to be true to this character, you don't actually need a lot of magic, but going with a Warlock is just too fitting. So as far as some cantrips, we'll keep it simple. Grab Mind Sliver to mess with your enemy's mind, Sword Burst to swing your tentacles all around you, hitting everything within 5 feet of you, Blade Ward for a bit more defense, and then if you want more tentacles coming out with a bit more reach, you can roleplay that a bit with Eldritch Blast. Because Eldritch Blast does some force damage, it shoots out 1 beam at level 1, 2 beams at level 5, 3 beams at level 10, and 4 beams at level 17. But when it comes to some first level spells, there's only 3 that I think would work. One is Cause Fear. You can do that much later once you've gotten a bit more confidence and you've had that sort of traumatic turn your hair white kind of moment, but we need to add it in for now. However, we want to boost up our damage a little bit with Hex, giving us an extra 1d6 of damage, and we need some more tentacles. So we're going to grab Arms of Hadar. This allows tendrils to erupt from you in a 10-foot emanation from you, forcing enemies to make a strength saving throw, and on a failed save, they take 2d6 necrotic damage, and they can't take reactions until the start of their next turn. Also at second level, you get to choose 2 more eldritch invocations. So to make sure you have a bit more armor, we'll grab Armor of Shadows. So now you can cast mage armor on yourself without expending a spell slot. And spell slots for warlocks are pretty darn valuable, because they have only a very limited amount, but they recharge on a short rest. Also, to boost up the tentacles that we're role-playing as coming out from Eldritch Blast, we're going to grab Agonizing Blast. This allows us to add our charisma modifier to each beam that we shoot out from Eldritch Blast. And then, at third level of Warlock, we get to choose a Warlock subclass. And this is where we upgrade from the typical black-haired protagonist and upgrade him to having some white hair and unleashing absolute trauma on our main character, because things get dark and his hair turns white. His sanity cracks, and now his eldritch power is actually terrifying, meaning we can go full on tentacles, because we get to choose a warlock subclass, and we're going to go with the Fathomless. This comes from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. It expands our spell list, which we don't care about any of them until we get to a much higher level. However, it gives us one of the most important features, Tentacles of the Deep. So you can magically summon a spectral tentacle that strikes at your foes. As a bonus action, you create a 10-foot long tentacle, and it lasts for 1 minute. When you create the tentacle, you can make a melee spell attack against one creature within 10 feet of it. And this tentacle can kind of move around on its own, as long as it's within 60 feet of you. It deals 1d8 cold damage and reduces the speed of anybody it hits by 10 feet. Once you hit 10th level in this class, the damage increases to 2d8. And every bonus action, you can move the tentacle 30 feet and repeat the attack. You can only summon the tentacle a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, but that should be plenty. It lasts for a minute. That's usually the entirety of combat. Also at third level of being a Fathomless Warlock, you get Gift of the Sea, so you have a swimming speed equal to 40 feet, and you can breathe underwater. Also at third level of Warlock, your spell slots upgrade to second level. And there's only one spell we could possibly argue might be some sort of tentacle, so we're going to grab Shadow Blade. It gives you some sort of sword fighting ability, and you could just as easily argue it's one of your tentacles lashing out. It deals 2d8 psychic damage, and it's just the only thing I think could fit. Then at fourth level of Warlock, you get an ability score improvement. And Warlocks are very charisma focused. While you might not think of this character as being particularly charismatic, as he gets more and more confident, that charisma is going to grow. And charisma also focuses on your own self-control, as exemplified by being a warlock or a sorcerer. So with that in mind, charisma is our main focus, and we're going to boost it up by 2 points. Then at 5th level of Warlock, our spell slots upgrade to 3rd level. There's only 2 more spells that I think are gonna fit. The first is Fear. We want to cause fear to our enemies. And the next one is Spirit Shroud. This is just going to be encompassing you in some spirits that boost up your damage, but this can just as easily be your tentacles wrapping around you as well. Also at 5th level, we get access to 2 more eldritch invocations. So we actually have one more way to use a tentacle, and that's with Master of Myriad Forms. This eldritch invocation allows us to use Alter Self without expending a spell slot, which will allow us to create some sort of addition to our body to attack with. And we can use our spellcasting modifier for the attacks, meaning that we have another way to create a tentacle type thing on ourselves and attack with it. Then I want to make sure that we focus on the creepy ghoul eye that you're constantly keeping covered with an eye patch, but when you fully embrace it, I think it'll give you Devil's Sight, allowing you to see through both magical and non-magical darkness. Then at 6th level of being a Fathomless Warlock, you get Oceanic Soul, so you gain resistance to cold damage, and you can still talk underwater if you really need to. But you also get Guardian Coil, so your Tentacles of the Deep can now defend you and others. When a creature that you can see takes damage within 10 feet of your summoned tentacle, you can use your reaction to reduce the damage by 1d8. and that increases to 2d8 at 10th level of this class. 7th level of Warlock upgrades our spell slots again, but there's no spells I want to grab at this level. Like I said, we're going to be a bit more low casting. However, we do get one more Eldritch Invocation, and the whole interesting diet of a ghoul from Tokyo Ghoul would boost up your general health a bit more, so we're going to grab Fiendish Vigor. This allows you to cast False Life on yourself at will, allowing you to gain some temporary hit points. 8th level of being a Warlock gives us another ability score improvements, so let's go ahead and throw 1 point into Charisma and 1 point into Dexterity. And at this point, you have maxed out Charisma, so you stop being a scared boy and start being a full-blown anti-hero, grappling your enemies using your fathomless tentacles and eldritch blasting the crap out of everybody, basically becoming a living death sentence for your enemies. Then at 9th level of Warlock, you get another Eldritch Invocation, so we're going to grab one that you can only get with the Pact of the Tome Invocation, allowing you to get Gift of the Protectors. So in your little book that you have access to, you can write somebody's name in your book. And when any creature whose name is on the page of your book is reduced to 0 hit points but not killed outright, you can magically make them drop to 1 hit point instead. This only works once per long rest. But this means that you can basically avoid being killed at least once, along with any of your allies. And then at 9th level, you get access to 5th level spells. And this is where we can start getting interesting, because we're going to grab Enervation, because that's an inky tendril of darkness that reaches out from you. It's just another tentacle, but it can deal up to 4d8 necrotic damage and just keep sucking the life out of somebody. And similarly, sending a ribbon of negative energy out from yourself, you can grab Negative Energy Flood, dealing up to 5d12 necrotic damage. But there's something specific about being a Fathomless Warlock that allows you to have the spell Big B's Hand, and it specifies in the expanded spell list that it is a tentacle. It specifies that it's not Big B's hand, it is basically Big B's tentacle. And it's this giant tentacle you summon into existence, and it can smack enemies, it can grab enemies, it can push enemies away, or it can even block damage for you or your allies. And then also at 9th level, you get Contact Patron, so you can chat up any other ghoul you want to, I guess. But 10th level of being a Fathomless Warlock gives you Grasping Tentacles, and this makes it so you learn the spell Avard's Black Tentacles, and it counts as a Warlock spell, but it doesn't count against the number of spells you know. And on top of everything else, you can cast it once without expending a spell slot, but it's even more powerful as a Fathomless Warlock because when you cast this spell, your ghoulish nature just gets stronger, granting you a number of temporary hit points equal to your Warlock level, and damage can't break your concentration on this spell. Then at 11th level of Warlock, you get to choose a Mystic Arcanum. And this is where it starts getting a bit difficult because we're forced to choose a couple higher level spells that we can only use once per day. So to boost up our ghoulish nature, we'll grab Tasha's Otherworldly Guise. This is you turning into the full-on Black Reaper or even full-on Dragon Kaneki, the tentacle apocalypse that you would become, because it boosts your armor class by 2, gives you a flying speed of 40 feet. You can use your spellcasting modifier for any attacks, and you can attack twice instead of once. You just have to roleplay a bit that your weapons are somehow tentacles. Maybe just pick up a couple whips along the way. 12th level of being a Warlock gives us another ability score improvement, so let's throw 2 points into Dexterity, because that's going to boost up our armor class, and we get another Eldritch Invocation, so we'll grab Eldritch Mind, allowing us to have advantage on Constitution saving throws to maintain concentration on spells. 13th level of Warlock gives us another Mystic Arcanum. So we're going to grab a high level spell with Power Word Pain. You basically endured torture for an insanely long time, so it's time for you to dish it out as well, inflicting crippling pain on any target that has 100 hit points or fewer. 14th level of Warlock gives us Fathomless Plunge. So as an action, you can teleport yourself and up to 5 willing creatures to any body of water within a mile of you. That's because this Fathomless Warlock was very much focused on being underwater, but we don't really need this part to make it true to character. It's just a feature worth noting. Then at 15th level of Warlock, you get another Mystic Arcanum. This time it's an 8th level spell. And to focus on driving people crazy, we're going to go with Maddening Darkness, literally doing a bunch of psychic damage and driving people insane. Also, you get access to 1 more Eldritch Invocation. So to boost up the Dark Eye thing that you have, we're going to grab Witch Sight. So now you have True Sight within a range of 30 feet. Then at 16th level of Warlock, you get another ability score improvement, so we'll boost up our Dexterity by 2 more points. And then at 17th level of Warlock, you get another Mystic Arcanum. And I want to make sure we have another way to kind of create a massive, powerful tentacle. I was going to grab Foresight to just give you advantage on everything, but that seems a little too straightforward. Instead, we're going to roleplay that one of your tentacles is a straight up Blade of Disaster. It's a dark blade that tears a rift in reality. So when you cast this spell, you can make 2 melee spell attacks with the blade. And on a hit, it deals 4d12 force damage. And the attack scores a critical hit on an 18, 19, or 20. And on a crit, it deals an extra 8d12 force damage for a total of 12d12 force damage. And just because it's so damn powerful, it can actually harmlessly pass through any barrier, including Wall of Force. And then at 19th level of Warlock, you get to choose an epic boon. And I couldn't find too many that really felt right, so I'm just going to grab the Boon of the Night Spirit. It'll allow us to boost up our charisma by 1 more point, but it gives us 2 features, giving us shadowy form, so while in dim light or darkness, you have resistance to all damage except psychic and radiant, and you get the feature Merge with Shadows. So while in dim light or darkness, you can give yourself the invisible condition as a bonus action, but the condition ends immediately after you take an action, a bonus action, or a reaction. Then at 20th level of Warlock, you get the feature Eldritch Master. See, there's this feature that I kind of forgot to mention at the beginning of this because it can be hard to record things and talking so much, and I miss things sometimes. But there's a feature all the way back at 2nd level called Magical Cunning. So you can spend a minute to regain a number of spell slots equal to up to half of your maximum, so that way you don't have to wait until you take a short rest. But with this Eldritch Master feat, you get at 20th level, using Magical Cunning now regains all of your expended spell slots. And that's how I would turn Ken Kaneki from a shy coffee shop boy into a tentacle-wielding eldritch nightmare, played in D&D as a Dhampir Fathomless Warlock. If you want the full character sheet, head over to my Patreon, and don't forget to subscribe for more ridiculous builds of all sorts, especially ones that might make your friends question reality. But which Kaneki phase is your favorite? Let me know in the comments. Are you in the Team Timid Boy, Team One-Eyed Ghoul, or Team Dragon Apocalypse? I'll be looking out for those answers, and I'll be here hoping you roll at least 3 nat 20s in your next D&D session, especially if you want to play as a Tokyo Ghoul in D&D.